Hello everyone, welcome to Good Morning Sri Lanka. Today is the 5th of June and it is a Tuesday and officially the long weekend is over. Good morning, Indy.
Good morning. And it's the day after Poya and today is World Environment Day. And it's also the day leading up to Rio Plus 20. So a big global economic forum. Social economic forum.
And we will be speaking to a couple of very special guests about the Rio Plus 20, which will be happening end of this month, as well as the whole show is a little bit...
yeah, I think we have some stories about some eco-friendly business in Lebanon, and we have Eurovision. That's not environmentally unfriendly.
Yes, it's not unfriendly.
Yeah.
That's also anyways, we're going to be taking a look at a story about an eco-friendly restaurant in Lebanon. They've just opened in the wetland region. So let's take a look at that. The Amik is the largest remaining freshwater wetland in Lebanon and is key staging area for migratory water birds en route to from Europe to Africa in the winter. The area is off limits to the public without a special permit and hunting is strictly prohibited. A lot like the Thalangama wetlands, don't you think?
Yeah, I would love to go there. Lebanese food is amazing. But in Sri Lanka, just on the Attiri Road, there's a place called Dunhinda. They do very nice, locally sourced, I guess, sustainable food. They do the best kaum I've ever had. And they would do good, like, vegetarian rice and curry. And they have a cart, a mobile cart that serves kolakenda.
I love those. You never know when you're going to stumble across them, actually, the mobile
quite
carts.
Cool.
But kind of...
I don't like kolakenda. It reminds me it's like medicine. But
I love it. It's so good. Yeah. Anyways, moving on, there is another business story.
Yeah, this is sort of environment and business, because architecture nowadays it's about both the environment and business, and people living in the environment. So award-winning Chinese architect Wang Shu became the first Chinese national to receive the Pritzker Prize in Beijing, in recognition of his contributions to the field of architecture. This is essentially the highest prize in architecture.
So we're going to take a look at a video about that.
Wang salvaged millions of tiles from demolished local homes to construct roofs and walls of compounds, true to his style of using recyclable materials. Wang, who was born in Urumqi in the Chinese far western Xinjiang Autonomous Region, earned his first degree in architecture at the Nanjing Institute of Technology. He's also spent more than a decade working as a craftsman to gain experience on the actual building process. He's quite interesting architect from a very interesting place. I mean, nobody's building more than China.
Yes, of course. And being eco-friendly is very, very good for the ecology, obviously. But
yeah, and it's good for life also.
Yeah, with so much construction happening in a place like that, it's good to get into that type of. How can I say?
Well, these are the ones who win the prizes. I think people doing business still do business in a very cutthroat way. I've seen Chinese buildings completely fall over.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah, there's a video of just apartment buildings just like toppling.
Okay.
And
that's scary.
Yeah, but I mean, but they've also done some amazing architecture. Like the things they did for the Olympics were quite interesting, and I think sustainable. But sustainable is a new thing. I mean, Bawa told us that 20 years ago.
Yes, and we're going to be talking more about sustainable development, especially with the Rio Plus 20 summit coming up. We're going to be speaking to a couple of guests in just a little while about the summit as well as World Environment Day. Right now, we're going to take a very short break. See you guys on the other side of this. Hello everyone, welcome back to Good Morning Sri Lanka. For those of you all who are just joining us, this is Prami and Indy in studio, and today is World Environment Day, and it is very, very important, obviously, but also
because we live in the environment, it's important.
We live in the environment, this is our home, so it's obviously a very
But I think it's the most important to youth. So we have some representatives from the youth activists to talk to us about World Environment Day and Rio Plus 20.
Yes, and in studio with us right now we have Joanne Kotalawala, who is a student activist with Climate Champions Initiative, welcome, as well as Sikandar Sabir, who is the founder of National Road to Rio Plus 20 campaign. Welcome on the show. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are y'all doing today?
Good, thank you.
Good. All right, so World Environment Day, could you tell us a little bit about its significance?
Yes, well, every year, the 5th of June has been declared by the UNEP as World Environment Day. And many people wonder, why dedicate just one day of the year to talk about environment issues. But I feel that the fact that everywhere around the globe it comes under a huge sort of a flagship of World Environment Day, gives it a good platform for people to talk about issues, and it also gets people excited around the world to know that around the world on that day everybody is working towards that a particular goal on raising awareness on environment issues, and every year they do work on a different theme. So looking at the current issues, it enables to bring people to focus as to what is really important, and highlighting sort of issues around the world. So this year what we have is the theme of green economy, and does it include you? So it's sort of economy. When you say green economy, people usually think that it's something left to policymakers and to the big shots out there. And when it says does it include you, it obviously tells us that each individual does play a part in that.
So what is a green economy, and how does it involve me?
Okay, so basically the green economy would be where you promote obviously economic development and social equity, while at the same time you minimize the environmental risks and ecological issues.
Okay.
So that is where the theme sustainable development comes in, which is what Rio+20 is trying to address. And just like the video that you showed earlier, that is essentially what they're trying to encourage people around the world to do.
Right.
Living in one with nature, and just while promoting economic development, to also see that the environment is preserved, and a certain amount of those funds are utilized in environmental protection. And this is especially significant when it comes to Sri Lanka now, because after 30 years of war, we are now in a rapid stage of development.
Right.
And I think what better time for Sri Lanka to take the initiative and to go on this path of green development, sustainable development. And we do have quite a lot of youth who are working on these initiatives. So that's how it relates to Sri Lanka.
So we talked about World Environment Day and what it means for us, but on a global level, what are people doing, and what is this Rio+20 summit about? What does the +20 mean, first off? I think we could ask you, Sikand.
Yeah, okay. Before we go to Rio+20, just want to touch a little bit what Jan mentioned, sustainable development. Sri Lanka, after 30 years of war, finally we are free at last. And we are rapidly developing, highways, harbors, airports, etc. So development is really, really important, as well as it has to be sustainable. It has to be addressed the social issues, the society, environment, and as well as economic. So sustainable development is not an option. It is only the path, it is one and only path which will lead to a secure, a safer and healthy environment, which will ensure the existence of our life and our future generation. So sustainable development is not an option. Rio+20 is an opportunity which leads to that sustainable development. Rio+20 is a place where people will think globally, but we have to act locally. Rio+20 it has a quite a big history, and it mainly came to the topic in 1992, where 172 world leaders gathered in the Rio de Janeiro city in Brazil for a groundbreaking conventions on sustainable development, where the sustainable development was become one of the famous topic on that time. Later on it went down, and once again it came on to the peak in 2002 in Johannesburg, where world leaders gathered to celebrate, I can say, to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the Earth Summit in Johannesburg, which gave laws of conventions and which make the foundation which they made in 1992. They polished up the foundation, they made it a little bit stronger. And once again, after 20 years, the world leaders, they are meeting at Rio de Janeiro in this June to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Earth Summit, and to once again to revive the commitments, and to once again to polish up and to implement what they agreed, to implement what was suggested, what was proposed on that Rio Declaration on 1992.
Okay, so they're meeting to implement some decisions they made 20 years ago.
And plus 10 years
Isn't that
ago.
a sign of a... Yeah. So you spoke about sustainable development being the only option, but it seems like the default option is unsustainable development, overfishing, using fossil fuels.
Yeah.
And if the rest of the world developed that way, are they now asking places like Sri Lanka and India and China to slow down? Or should we sacrifice our growth because they mess things up?
Yeah, that's a quite a good question, and a little bit tricky also. It's like this. it's said to be, most of the natural resources are, it's located in these developing countries or in the third world countries and the developing countries. We have more resources. But, most of developed countries, they have used all the resources. So they're depending on us, to grab all the resources what we have. So, yes, I think all of us, we have the right to use the natural resources. We have to use the natural resources. But we have to be more responsible, no? It's not only the developed countries, take all the resources from us, and even we also have a right to develop. After 30 years of war, as John mentioned, the natural resources, yes, we do have, but we have to be more responsible to use those resources.
Okay.
Could you tell us a little bit about the issues that will be faced, that the countries will be studying at the Rio Plus 20, because they discussed a certain thing 20 years ago, and a lot of those goals unfortunately have not been met. Could you tell us a little bit about where they would be heading from now?
Rio Plus 20, it has mainly two themes. The first thing is the green economy in the context of poverty eradication. Poverty, it is one of the most hottest topics I can say, which completely address on the Millennium Development Goals also. And the second theme is the institutional framework for sustainable development. Because we should need policy. There should be policies, there should be a document which can guide our pathway, which can guide the effectiveness, which can guide the productiveness of that our implementation. So mainly it focuses on the institutional framework as well as the green economy to eradicate poverty. So those two are the main two themes, and it focuses on on renewable energy, zero waste, and poverty, sufficiency, happiness, equity. That is one of the biggest the concept, or one of the biggest the term which is going to be discussed in Rio Plus 20. Equity, because it's going to be really, really important, as you mentioned earlier, the developed countries and developing countries scenario.